Welcome to the Agency Navigators podcast. I'm Ro.
I'm Don.
And I'm Adam.
And we are here today to we've been teasing and hinting about some new developments. We are here today to really show you behind the scenes what those actually are.
Absolutely. What I want to show you is a whole new way of looking at client retention. And client retention is such a challenge across the industry to compute and understand.
So much so that when we're at industry events, it's the one thing that does not get talked about much.
Absolutely. And I want you to think about it like this, that the battle in the trench for every agency is the battle between bringing in new business through the front door and understanding how much business is leaving us out the back door. It's like having a coin has two sides, heads and tails. We just can't focus on one side with new business. We have to focus equally on new business as well as retention.
And, we have Adam here today as well, because between Adam's technical skills to execute and Don's big brain in dreaming this up, the two of them truly are a dream team and have developed something so magical that it should change the industry. Right now, it is available for all of our full-time mastery clients. We've talked about in past podcasts the importance of the book of business, that it was our focus for last year and the year before, and we've been capturing our clients' data, their books of business, regardless of their AMS system, because it is the one thing AMS systems, yes, I will say it, really do a poor job about, correct?
Absolutely. Almost all of the agency management systems are incapable of telling you what your book of business looked like 6 months ago, a year ago, and therefore their ability to calculate true retention is extremely limited.
Adam, how has it been with all of the different AMS systems in their books of business?
It's been interesting. So previously I had worked on a lot of mapping documents before. So, it wasn't really a huge heavy lift for me, but there's definitely so much nuance between all of them. We have, probably somewhere in the ballpark of 12 to 14 different integrations going on at this point, all working their way together in the background behind in our automation tool.
And it is not easy. Adam is very modest. Him and Don, I have been privy to the conversations. I've heard the meetings. This is hardcore, deep work. Takes deep thought, takes deep patience, and deep understanding. It is beyond difficult. So yeah, a shout out to the two of them for doing what seemingly the AMS systems could not.
There are good reasons why the industry doesn't like talking about retention. It is simple in theory, far from simple when you get down to the calculation.
So based on that, now that we've done those shout outs,
I think let's talk about the concept of how we've decided to come upon this from a different perspective. And we call this client survival.
What's the first? This is an agency CFO metric. It is something that is our intellectual property. It is the agency CFO client survival report.
And if we think about client survival, it is exactly what it sounds. And if we say 12 months ago, we know who all of the insureds were at your agency. We got insured A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on. And if we roll to today, which of those insureds are still with you?
Who survived?
Who survived? Who did we retain?
Mm-hmm.
And that is at the highest level is who stayed, who left. That's survival.
And without getting into any of the details, it may sound very simple on the surface. Again, this is deep, deep work to get this metric. Our CFO agency, CFO mastery clients, meaning our full-time, we're fractional CFOs, they're in our program. We have been collecting their books of business for this very reason. And we are able right now we have some live and we are rolling it out so that all of our mastery clients will have access to it. The first few months, it is data gathering, it's data integrity, so that this report can be produced. Anything to add before we have Adam click on and let's show this report? Anything for you to add, and then I'll go to Adam. Anything else? All right,
let's see.
So this is at the agency level, looking at the client survival retention. It is based on our typical intelligence suite dashboard. And in this case, Adam has two new slicers, start period and end period, which lets us see the time period of the change.
So what we are actually doing in this example is taking from an agency and looking at all of their clients, all of the insureds that they had as of February 2025. And then we're comparing 12 months later in February of 2026, the same insureds. And then we determine which insureds have remained, have survived with the agency, and which insureds are no longer with the agency.
Again, it sounds simple on the surface. There's deep work underneath it to really calculate that. And you're looking at policy levels. You've got all the slicers, all of the good
Absolutely.
stuff. Monoline versus multi-line.
So we're going to look at it in 4 different ways, 4 different retention calculations. Did the customer, the insured, does the insured remain at the agency in any capacity at all? By policy, how many policies did the initial group of insureds have? How many did they end with? How many did they retain out of those that they started with? And the same thing for commission and premium. We know what the starting point was, how much of the premium and commission was retained.
All right, so that gives you the quick overview. Adam, do you want to dive a little deeper and give a little more information on what we have up on the screen?
Yeah, of course. I'll definitely do that. So as Dawn and Ro had mentioned, this is essentially what we're doing is we're taking multiple snapshots and capturing them in a time capsule, so to speak, when it comes to your data. So this gives us the ability to, again, select our start period, select our end period at the end, and actually look between those 2 points in time, what kind of a change actually happened to that cohort of business that you started off that start period with. So again, there are the 4 different buckets here. And just to kind of move around the screen, you'll see your start count, end count. You have your deltas. And then we have a true client retention and annualized client retention. Just to give a little bit of high level information on those, essentially because of the fact that we take the snapshots after we've collected a certain amount. We don't need a full year. Let's say we get 6 months worth of your data. We're actually able to then go ahead and tell you what your true retention number is for that 6-month period. But then we're actually able to annualize it out and say, this is what your projected retention would look like over that year. And it actually extrapolates the number out. That does that for all 4 of the buckets. And then as far as customer level goes, as Ro had mentioned, we do have monoline versus multi-line customer retention. As you'd expect, your monolines would be a little bit lower than your multi-lines just because it's easier to pick up one policy and go than it is to take a bundle with you. But to go down this last side here, we actually have another couple of calculated measures here based on the retention status. So the retention status is essentially your starting policy count for that account and your ending policy count. And based on the drift, whether there was a no change, decrease, increase, or there was growth for the client. Again, we are only tracking retention in here. So the numbers over here, when it comes to growth, those aren't included in these numbers. Those are separate attributions, so to speak. So any new policies that were purchased from those clients are pulled out of these delta numbers here. This is more just to orient you and let you know kind of what else is going on, what else is happening behind the scenes that you might not, have an eye on. But again, just to go across the table here, we have account lookup code and name. And then we have those start and end policy counts, that status. And then we have everything as it looks up top, the same for commission start, end, delta, premium start, end, delta. And that goes for each of those client lines. The nice part about this table too is we actually give you the ability to export the data to an Excel spreadsheet if you would like to. That gives you the ability to actually take a look, go through, maybe make some, some operational changes, or, have some people do some things on the ops side to retain more customers, or maybe get some of these customers that left back possibly.
And that's important because on the slicer bank on the side of the screen, you can do it by producer, by CSR, by department. However your data is set up, that's how you will have the ability to slice it. It may be a CSR issue, it may be a producer issue, it may be a policy type, or even a carrier. So they have built this to have the most information readily available, because it is not readily available. This is a management tool to make decisions that are meaningful decisions to impact that retention number.
Absolutely. So right now you're seeing the retention calculation based upon every policy, every client within the agency. Now, different segments of the book and business are going to react differently. Departments, you'll retain better in one department versus another. Amongst your producers, some producers will retain better than others. So there's all these other, I call them subplots or subsets that have a different story than the general agency retention.
Mm-hmm. And that's why this is so complex. So Adam, do you want to go to definitions, or do you want to give them the personal lines example? It's up to you. Take us where you want to go next.
So I think what we'll do is we'll wait for the personal lines until after we get through the other really cool view of all this data. So then we'll have a full understanding of where we're going to look at.
Perfect. So based on the complexity, Adam has built in that little button he's hovering over to give you the definitions, the report overview, and really a little bit behind the scenes of what you're looking at. So Adam, please explain this, just really brief.
Yeah, of course. So the report overview, it's pretty simple, just kind of lays out exactly what's going on up here. Again, it lets you know how things are being analyzed, that it's a start period versus end period comparison. That's all pretty basic stuff. So the real big one here is this left box. This is agency level retention versus slicer level retention. I'll go back to that in just a moment, just so we can touch on definitions quickly, because these are kind of standard. This lets you know where your start period, end period. It's kind of like a glossary of terms, so to speak, based on what you're going to be looking at on either the agency level or the slicer level retention pages. This box, though, to get back to it, is really where all of the importance lies in this entire model, because we had originally built one view of it. We built the agency level retention view. And we started having some conversations, Dawn and I, and we decided that, a second view might be really, really helpful when it comes to this whole retention thing. Because again, retention's definitely really hard to get a total grasp on in a lot of agencies. So based on how your agency uses retention, we built a totally separate second model. And to kind of give you the understanding between how the two of them work, if we have our agency level and our slicer level, agency level essentially says, to use an example, if we had producer A and producer B, and we had producer A write a policy and it stayed with producer A, you wouldn't see any drift. You would see that policy stay with them. If that policy was for any reason operationally transferred over to, say, producer B halfway through that window of time period, the agency level view will not drop that count off of that agent's line. If you have them listed as a slicer specifically, it's going to show all of these metrics from the agency level. This person wrote it. They may not still be servicing it, but the agency has still retained it. So that's a really good look at the way the agency level version works. The slicer level version is where a lot of the tricky intricacies really come into play here. So this is dimension driven. This is specifically based to give you the ability to watch that drift happen over time. So in that same example with producer A and producer B, if we had producer A write the policy, it was transferred operationally to producer B halfway through the window. You're actually, when you pick producer A on the slicer, going to see that policy it tick down off of their overall count. That now exists on someone else's overall count. The nice part about that is that actually gives you an idea of, where your CSRs are at or where your producer's at, kind of how their specific book is drifting versus how the agency is reacting.
I just mentioned to Don, Adam, that is an added benefit to all of this is the book management. So it's not only going to allow our agency partners to manage retention better, but also the division of labor. And as this whole market has changed, we predicted that, we knew that was going to happen. As the economy is changing, as everything is in such a state of flux, productivity is key. So let's go ahead and show them the slicer level retention for client survival. It's going to look the same. It's the nuances.
Yep, it does indeed. Well put. So again, the numbers look exactly the same if you look at these 2 pages, because right now, with no slicers applied, this is truly at an agency level retention number. Now, the slicers are where the fun comes in. So if we go ahead and go back to the agency level, and let's go ahead and let's say we'll pick personal lines, because you do have some clients that start off as personal lines clients and essentially, can eventually drift over to commercial lines clients for one reason or another. So if we were to switch over, we're going to put both of them on personal lines. And let's go back and take a look at a few of the numbers here on the agency level page.
And it does take a minute to update. And while it's loading and all the numbers are coming in, and it looks like it's pretty much there, I want to make an important note. We have been asked this. It is a monthly update, and it will stay a monthly update. It's a monthly snapshot of your book of business. Don, speak to why it can't be weekly or daily. No. It doesn't make sense.
The way the systems load, the carrier downloads, it would introduce noise into the data to do it any more frequently than on a monthly basis. So it is absolutely essential that we take a snapshot. The proper period of time is monthly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've got personal lines.
Yep. And speaking of snapshots, I just grabbed one so we don't have to toggle back and forth. Yeah. I figured I'd make it easy for everybody.
That was really good, Adam.
Snagged a quick screenshot. So let's now go ahead and take a look at what happens when you choose the same slicer and the same time period on these 2 different tabs. Okay. So if you see here, the numbers, the start counts start the same. The end counts actually change. There's a little bit of drift there. Not a lot, but there is a little bit of drift. And, the retention doesn't equal up.
And I think this gets to the challenge of why the industry does not like the topic of retention, because you can look at it from very different dimensions. The agency level is on the bottom. And the question that the agency level is answering is, did that initial group of clients, personal lines clients, continue to be clients 12 months later? Now, in the agency level, all we care about is, are they still a client? They could be a personal lines client. They may have changed over to a commercial lines or a benefits client. We don't care. The only question that's being answered is, are they still an insured at the agency? The slicer view, since we have selected personal lines, is answering a different question. It is saying, out of the original group of personal lines clients, how many are still personal lines clients? Mm-hmm. So there's a slight difference. Now, in some of it, when you get to a producer or a carrier or a CSR, you can see dramatic differences, but they're answering two very, very different parts. One is, are they still an insured at the agency in any way, versus are they an insured at the agency with those specific parameters or slicers applied?
Good deal. It is complex as advertised. This is not for the faint of heart. Adam, anything to add to what Don just said?
Oh, I think it was pretty well said. This is a really complex, really behind the scenes, a very well built tool, very, very well built up tool. And yeah, like you said, it's something. I've been in the industry, as a lot of you have, Don, Rose, same thing, over a decade. And the one thing that I have heard argued about more than anything is how to calculate true retention. And the biggest part of that argument is usually the complexity of doing it correctly. So usually what I end up hearing is, let's make this shortcut. Maybe we'll make that shortcut. At AgencyCFO, we made no shortcuts. We actually gave you two completely separate models.
And there was deep conversation. I mean, that was something you both had a different take on it and came together as Team ACFO usually does. So again, we're showing this, we're pulling back the curtain to show this, to show that we've always been focused on retention. We practice what we preach. We don't just say, go fix it. We're going to help you. We have invested time, money, resources, and a lot of brain power, blood, sweat, and tears to produce usable tools for our agency partners. We want to make that meaningful impact.
Absolutely. This is so key to every agency's future, especially now with a softer market. Retaining your clients is just absolutely essential. And we need to understand the segments that we are retaining well. And the opposite is where the segments are that we're not retaining as well. And perhaps we need to make some changes.
Exactly. The roadblocks could be the CSR, the producer, the carrier, the type of business, all of it. So, Adam, if you want to leave them with one last look at the agency level retention, we'll flip to that and he'll just easily clear the filters and you'll see the overall again. And really, this shows something that doesn't exist anywhere else. We are obviously proud parents, all of us, on this. This has been Adam's baby and Don, and truly grateful for all of you that have tuned in to really look at this view. It is meaningful. It is how to keep your agency viable into the future. Yes, we love sales. We love producers. We love new business, but we truly understand that a viable business with transferable value, whether it's now or in the future, really depends on client retention, customer retention.
Absolutely. The value of your agency is your book of business. And if that book of business is rapidly leaving you through the back door, that's not a situation you want to be in. The cost of that, whether it be today or down the future, are tremendous costs. So there's an opportunity for most agencies, and there's very few that have this covered. Almost every agency has significant opportunity for improving retention.
There we go. Adam, any final wrap-up words?
The only final wrap-up word I would say I have is, as we all know, it costs so much less money to retain a client operationally than it does to write a new one. So hanging on to these people is pivotal. Think about how many touch points, how many reach outs you have to do to sign a new client, how many hours that is by producers, CSRs to get everything right, versus having a quick phone call and, maybe having a touch point with somebody or doing whatever retention strategy you have in order to hang on to these people. But yeah, this is some low hanging fruit, and we've put the spotlight on it.
Well said. Don, anything else to add?
No, I think we've really encapsulated everything, is that now we have visibility into a way that has never been done before. This is tremendous visibility.
Visibility that your AMS system cannot provide. So please, if you want to learn more, reach out. As always, thank you for listening. Tune in on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us. We are always up for a good conversation about anything we provide the industry. So we are here for you. Thank you so much.
I'll say, improve your agency's retention and you'll be improving your agency's financial health.
Take care.
Be well.
Bye, everybody.